Welcome to Gawne in 60 Seconds. It's that time of the week where we look at all of the latest motorsport news and what's coming up this weekend. It's the Belgian Grand Prix this weekend, so I'm going to tell you what the timings are here in the UK and how you can watch it. Let's get into it. So then, first of all, this is the car channel, Gawne in 60 Seconds. There are loads of new videos on here, including the new EV5. We've got a MG S6. Last week we added the new Mazda CX-5 and the GWM Haval Pro. Next week we've got the Smart #1 and potentially a Cupra on the channel as well. The new Raval looks rather good, so stay tuned on the channel for those. Please make sure you subscribed. And then this channel here is the Motorsport channel. As you know, all the weekly motorsport news appears on this channel, so please do make sure you subscribe to both. It definitely helps. Now let's get straight into the news. First of all, World Endurance Championship last weekend, the race at Sao Paulo was absolutely riveting. Really enjoyed that race. They have looked at their calendar and it does look like they're now going to finish in Europe as the Middle East conflict continues, which is something we pretty much knew was going to happen as things escalated again in the last few weeks, which is of course a real shame. So it looks like it's going to be revised, replacing the planned trips to Qatar and Bahrain with races at Barcelona and Monza instead. I mean, there'll be epic races, they're epic locations, so that's the plan and that is what we need to stay tuned for. Now, there is another calendar that is going to need to be changed, and this is F1, because they've got the Abu Dhabi and the Qatar Grand Prix lined up later in the year, and there was a press release waiting to go, all typed out and ready to go a couple of weeks ago, that stated that the Bahrain Grand Prix was going to be reinstated and slotted in, I think, after Singapore. Of course, they've had to halt on that because of everything re-escalating, and there is a contingency plan to have more races at the end of the season if these two are also cancelled. And it does look like they can't have them. There is a rumour that the insurers won't insure the teams to go to Bahrain and to go to Abu Dhabi or Qatar, and you can completely understand why. The safety of spectators has to come first. And of course the safety of the competitors, the teams, media, all of those guys. Safety has to be the number one thing. So they just can't go and race there at the moment. And it's a real shame. Obviously a lot of money is made from racing there. Now, what is going to replace it? Now, it looks like we might go to Portimao in Portugal. There is a potential to go back to Barcelona. There is other circuits potentially that can host. There is also talk of Singapore holding a second Grand Prix. So there are still options, but I would expect we need to know now, really. We need to know pretty quickly because teams need to make all their travel arrangements and all that sort of stuff. So there needs to be an announcement within the next week. It might even be this weekend because planning the second half of the season is coming really soon. You know, we've got the summer break, but by the time that's over, it's really quick succession and it needs to be planned way before then. So hopefully we'll hear from F1 very soon, but I don't think we will see any racing in the Middle East this year. Next up, Norris has got a 10-place grid penalty as McLaren have fit a new electronics unit. So as you take different parts of the internal combustion engine and the battery store and all those sort of things, all the components that make up the power unit, you have so many you can take, and if you take any more you get penalties for using more components than you're allowed. This is exactly what's happened here, where they're going to take a 10-place grid penalty. Luckily at Spa is somewhere where you can overtake, so that's at least something. Now, next up, there is a great podcast online, which is the High Performance and High Performance Racing podcast, and it's a really in-depth chat with Checo Perez. Do go watch it on YouTube or listen to it on your podcast platform because it is really interesting. It definitely opens up and tells you a lot about what was going on and a lot of what we expected and suspected was going on at Red Bull over the time Checo was there. He does confirm that they were really building a car for one driver and they would only field the one car if they could have got away with it, which is a gut punch, I suppose, but he knew what he was signing up for when he went there. Yes, it's soul destroying that you've got a car that's been designed for your teammate, So it's a really interesting and open conversation with Checo, and a really good deep dive into his time with Red Bull. So definitely go and check that out, because that is a brilliant listen or watch if you have some time. It is genuinely really worth looking into. Now we talk about the driver market, because this guy, Nikola Solov, is doing great things in F2. He is looking like the real deal. Brilliant job at Silverstone. So he has to be in the conversation for a seat in F1. Now the problem with getting a seat in F1 is there are only 22, and you're going to need to kick some people out to get some more people in. So Red Bull have got a problem, haven't they? Because even if Max Verstappen goes somewhere, they'll need to replace him with somebody really good. So Piastri probably makes sense. However, they still have a driver problem, because they've got 4 slots and too many drivers. Now, prior to this season, I would have said perhaps Lawson would be the one that gets moved on, but he's been doing pretty well, and he's been getting better and better this year. But both Lindblad and Hadjar have both also been doing really well. So it's going to be a shame for one of them to go, but one of them is going to have to go for Solov to get one of the seats. So is it still going to be Lawson? Is he still the unfavoured one? You would have to look at it and think, well, he did have a chance at Red Bull, albeit a tiny chance that wasn't really a chance. But is he going to be promoted again? Whereas you can see Lindblad getting promoted in the future. So unfortunately, I think the cards are still stacked against Liam Lawson, and his time is ticking. So he's going to find another berth somewhere else. But where on earth could he find himself? Maybe we could see him at a Williams. I think he would fit quite well at Williams. He's quite Williams-esque driver, if you like. He's got that kind of, I don't know, that Kiwi, that Alan Jones about him. You know, he's got a bit of that about him. But that would mean one of the Williams drivers heading off, and you could see Carlos Sainz perhaps heading to Audi, where he should have been. Really, he was looking at Audi before he went to Williams, and chose Williams because of all the promises that James Vowles made, which haven't come true. So you could see him being disillusioned and disappearing off to Audi, and then that would mean perhaps Nico Hülkenberg retiring. And then you've got the Haas seat. Now it does look like Kamara's a great option for that. I know McLaren are really pushing for Fornaroli, but again that means Esteban Ocon has to find a seat somewhere else. Does he retire? Does he go somewhere else? There are lots of open questions. The problem is a lot of people are going to sit and wait, and you're going to have to sit and wait and see what Verstappen does, because if Verstappen does go, then that's going to trigger a mass movement. If he stays, of course, it makes a lot of decisions a lot easier for a lot of other teams, but if he triggers and goes, then there could be a massive domino effect with him choosing to move. You've also got the Alonso effect. Is Alonso going to stay at Aston Martin? There's been also rumours about him heading over to Alpine, which could unseat Franco Colapinto, I suppose, because you're not going to kick out Pierre Gasly, are you? So there is definitely a merry-go-round happening in the background. I'd be interesting to know what you think in the comments below. Where do you think people will slot in? What do you think will be your lineup next year? What are your favourites? Where do you think people should go? Next up is the Crashgate. So if you don't know what Crashgate is, it's basically Singapore 2008, the first ever Singapore race, which was effectively fixed by Nelson Piquet Jr. crashing on purpose to allow the safety car come out and Alonso to therefore win, because Alonso had pitted before the safety car and therefore gained an advantage because the pit lane closed during the safety car in those years, which meant that having your pit stop beforehand was a distinct advantage. So Felipe Massa has basically decided to sue Formula One, sue the FIA, because he thinks that shouldn't have been counted, it shouldn't have happened, and therefore he should be world champion in 2008 because he lost the championship by a point. And as soon as this all happened in Singapore, a lot then happened afterwards, which meant Massa had a terrible pit stop, and then he left the pit box with the hose still on. He got an unsafe release. All sorts happened. So he didn't get any points in Singapore, whereas he probably would have got points the balance of probability suggests that he would have got points had it been a normal race and the safety car not happened and all the panic in the pits not happened, all those sort of things. So he's fighting in the Supreme Court in the UK, and it is staggering, I think, that it's actually got this far, because we've seen in the past you can't go and change sports results years and years after the event. Now, what happened was clearly wrong, and the people that were dealt with. But the smoking gun piece of evidence seems to be that they believe that Ecclestone and Mosley, who were in charge of F1 at the time, knew about it before the time limit to change things was up, which was before the gala prize giving at the end of the season. And they should have done something about it then, and they didn't. Now, of course, it didn't come out until the middle of the following year, and everyone has said, oh, we didn't know anything about it until the middle of the following year. So it will be interesting to see what happens with this. I mean, I can't see anything changing. I genuinely can't see anything changing in terms of results. I can't see Felipe Massa getting his championship, which is what he wants. If they just cancelled the whole result of that 2008 Singapore Grand Prix and say, okay, we're going to strike that from the record, it's not going to help Felipe Massa. So yeah, it's an interesting, a very, very interesting saga that's running through the courts. What does he want? He wants to be called world champion, and he wants the money that he would have earned had he been a world champion, and I don't think he's going to get that. So it's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds. Do you have an opinion on this? Do you think he should still be fighting in the court? For me, I think it tarnishes his reputation a little bit, because when he stood on that podium in 2008, having missed out by 1 point, and the dignity in which he stood on that podium in front of his home fans made you think, this guy, what a hero, what an absolute brilliant guy, taking it on the chin and doing such a great job. And now he does feel like a bit of a sore loser, and I think that is always a bit of a worry if you tarnish that reputation by fighting in the courts for effectively what's going to be money, because you're not going to reverse a result, you're not going to change a title. Last up, it is the M Sport Extra calendar. Please do go and follow M Sport Extra over on X, or Twitter as we call it, because it is the Belgian Grand Prix weekend. We've got F3, F2, F1 all at Spa. You've also got IndyCar Nashville and the World Rally Championship from Estonia. The World Rally Championship stages are on TNT Sports across the weekend. So these are your weekend timings. Thanks to Silverstone, who posts these UK timings every weekend, which is brilliant. So we look at F3, practice on Friday 8:55, qualifying at 2, sprint race Saturday 9 AM, and the race on Sunday is at 7:30. If we look at F2, 10 AM for practice on Friday, qualifying at 3 PM. The sprint race is at 1:15 on Saturday, and then the feature race is at 9 AM on Sunday. And then F1 timings for the weekend: practice 1 12:30, practice 2 4 PM, both on Friday, Sky Sports F1. Then on Saturday you've got practice 3 at 11:30 AM, and then qualifying at 3 PM UK time. Then on Sunday the race starts at 2, so lights out, away we go, 2 PM. That's all your news for this week. Please do make sure you subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.